All right, and with that, we should be live, assuming that everything is working. That's kind of how we have to open all of these up, though, because there's always that chance that technology says, screw you guys, what is a podcast? We don't like that. With that said, today is...
Welcome to... Yeah, it's Thursday.
It is Thursday. It's Thursday for me, Thursday for him, but we both have hammers. So...
Thursday.
Works out for us.
That's how we're doing it. It's Happy Thursday, Kyle.
I like it.
So.
I'm into it.
Speaking of Kyle, we're not going to introduce Ocean today because he's anyway. Hi, Ocean. How are you doing today?
Fuck off. So,
all right, cool. Perfect.
Our guest today is Kyle Curtis, the creator of the Non Sequitur Show and resident shitstir of the internet. This guy has created several videos and debates with like all kinds of people, including people that believe in the flat Earth, people that believe in drinking piss as a health benefit. That's just two of like the craziest things. What are some of the ones that you remember the most?
Thank you for the piss drinking episode, by the way. It started my entire Dangers of Woo section on my channel.
It's so you know that there's a moment where you stop and I think everybody gets to this point where they're like, where did I go wrong in life to get me to this point? I just had that moment with him introducing me as the guy that talks to fatter people, talks to people who like to drink piss.
And the best part, Kyle, I believe you've mentioned before that before you started Non Sequitur Show, you had no idea that some of these people even existed.
I didn't. I had no idea that there were people. Steve was actually the first. When I was talking to Steve about doing this show, originally it was supposed to be a podcast, and I remember we had like meetings like every other day where we'd sit down and talk about like how we were going to do this, what we're going to be. We wanted to get our first month full of guests ready and have them all lined up. And he had to go. He had to cut one of the meetings short because he said, "I've got to moderate a flat Earth debate." And I just remember going, "A what?" And he said, "But I was more so taken aback by how nonchalantly he said flat Earth debate. Like to me, that was like a huge deal. Like that's shattering news. There are people who really think that the Earth is flat. To him, it was just like, yeah, it's just another Tuesday. Got to moderate a flat Earth debate." And
so you were talking to Steve about making a show, and you didn't know that he moderated flat Earth debates on his channel. Like,
correct.
How did that happen?
Well, I found out, I've discovered Steve. I was watching a Christopher Hitchens debate back last November, or last October. And it auto played into a debate between Red's Rhetoric and G-Man. And so that's how I kind of got pulled into the great debate community, just watching the amateur, I guess, level people, because I was a huge fan of the Christopher Hitchens debates, those professionals set up, a huge fan of his. And so I got enthralled in these debates that were happening between regular people on YouTube. And I had the idea, or what I wanted to do was do kind of like remember VH1 used to have Behind the Music.
Yes.
That kind of mockumentary.
Is this why we've got you? Is this why we've got you in the green screen room? This is behind the scenes with Kyle Curtis.
Oh yes, we're backstage. This is exclusive. Suris the Skeptic and Ocean Keltoy only. But yeah. So I wanted to do like one of those. I wanted to take like 3 or 4 people who were prominent in these debates, or who I thought was like I saw them in the majority of them. So I contacted G-Man, I contacted Steve, and I contacted Brett Keane, and there's one other person. Oh, Alex Botten. Those were the 4 people that I contacted, and I let them know what I was wanting to do. I was wanting to take the 4 of them, 2 on the atheist side, 2 on the Christian side, and just kind of sit down, talk with them, and get a feel for why they do these, where they're coming from, and strike up some kind of deal. So I wound up doing an interview with all 4 of them. Steve was the last one that I did, but I talked to Alex Botten. I talked to G-Man for like 2 hours, and then this was before me and G-Man had that big falling out. And it was complete, like, nicest guy.
Isn't that how all stories with G-Man begin, though? This is before me and G-Man had our falling out.
Yeah.
Hi, Kyle. The haircut really brings out the gay in your eyes. Thanks, darling.
Also, Commander Zoot Helsing, $2 donation. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Said, I just came in from wrecking a fanatical Christian. Hi, Commander Zoot Helsing. Also, for anybody else, as long as you don't say anything like ridiculously offensive, your super chats will always be read as fast as I can get to them.
And just another side note, when I talked to Brett Keane, I talked to Brett Keane for like 3 hours, right? One night. We were supposed to do an hour, and I went up talking to him for 3 hours. And a funny story. By the way, when we get to our year, which is in January, I'm going to release all of these interviews. I've been holding on to them. In a year, I'm going to release all 4 of these interviews. But so I talked to Brett Keane, a really nice guy, and we got to like half the questions that I wanted to get to. And so I wound up having to go, and I said, look, I'll reschedule another time with you, and we'll finish out the questions that I have, because the next questions that I have are going to be kind of like not really hard hitting, but I want to dive into the controversies that you've been a part of, because there's been so many controversies that he's been a part of. And he said, oh, okay, but you could kind of tell he was taken aback by that. So the next morning I get up and I've got this long Facebook message from Brett Keane, and he's like, I thought about it. I talked to Dawn, and we know you're trying to set me up. Like, this is something that you're planning on coming back with these questions to just paint me in a negative light. And we had this conversation because he asked me why I left the faith, and I told him that it was because of had a lot to do with me being gay. And he, in that long message, he ended it by saying, by the way, I have a new article up on my website, God TV Radio. And I click it, and it's this article about how homosexuals are, he compared it to bestiality, I think. Interesting thing was, though, in the conversation that we had, he said that no other Christian has done more for the gay people than Brett Keane has. I've been an advocate for gay rights and leaving those people alone. And this article just totally blew up. It just went against everything that he said. So anyway, me and him had a lot of words, and I have invited him on the show many times. I said, Brett Keane, anytime you want to come on and talk, but he's never bitten. So
he's weird. He's one of those people like Darth Dawkins and some of those personalities where they don't want to go outside of their like bubble they control. They don't want to go onto another realm. They stay in their little spot and they control the thing. And if they want to terminate everything at a moment's notice, they can.
Yeah, there's nothing worse, I don't think, than somebody who has a more inflated sense of self-worth than they actually have. He has one of those. Like, he thinks that he's, just the greatest philosopher, or the person that you're going to want to have a conversation with. And so he gets into these, like, when I asked him for the interview, it was like pulling teeth to get him to agree. Really? He was like, well, I'm very busy and I've got a lot going on, and I'm just not sure if
I'm busy with things.
Yeah. Eating mac and cheese and doing whatever else Brett Keane does.
Now I'm going to go eat some mac and cheese. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it boiled down to. So I don't know, but it's interesting. Alex Botten was amazing to talk to, though. Love talking to Alex Botten. But then I talked to Steve, and Steve was telling me about the great debate community and how all that went. And so I hung up with Steve, and I was thinking, like, we should just do these on a podcast. We should just have these conversations where we talk to people who do these debates, and it has changed a lot since those first few months, because we had the where it really turned was with Kent Hovind and Dr. Herman Mays. Well, no, that came later. That came a lot later.
I just remember that being the one that like made things explode.
Oh yeah. In terms of like us getting out there, absolutely. And is a funny story because Aaron Ra I credit with turning me from a Christian to an atheist. Mm-hmm. Back 6 years ago, I was in a youth group. We had a youth group one Sunday night, and some guys were watching a video after youth group was over, and it was Aaron Ra on the Atheist Experience, and they were talking about slavery in the Bible. And I remember going, that's not in the Bible. Slavery's not in the Bible anywhere. Yeah, I know. Looking back, but like it's
me, you, and Deuteronomy want to have a talk.
But for Christians, though, that's not something that preachers
they don't like
harp on.
Yeah, they don't talk about it every Sunday. It's not, at least they, not since 1860 they haven't. Like, it's not
right.
I'm sure you can get Anderson to talk about it once in a while, but that's him.
But for me, I was in like a Southern Baptist Christian bubble. You didn't get any of that stuff because you always hung around with people who thought like you, and so you weren't exposed to that. So I remember going home, and I had that friend send me the link to the video, and I got home, watched the entire thing. And I remember going, that's not in there. And I sat there with my Bible, and I was like, okay, it's not going to be in there. Like, this verse is not going to be in there. Turned there it was. It was in there. So I binge watched his videos all week long, just Aaron Raw videos, Matt Dillahunty videos. Finally, my faith crumbled. So when we fast forward to Non Sequitur, I tell Steve, I'm like, look, I'm going to reach out to Arn because he's a hero of mine. I don't expect anything from it because we literally had 2 subscribers when I reached out to Arn. We had 2 subscribers. And I said, I sent a message to Arn and I said, look, this is what you meant to me. Like, you're like the hero of mine. We just started this thing, this podcast. Would you be interested in coming on? It was 5 minutes. And he responded, I'm there.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm there. And so, that was a really cool thing when you have somebody that you look up to kind of be willing to come and be a part of something with only 2 subscribers. And then the rest is history.
That's how I felt when my channel was a lot smaller too, and I had Aaron come on as well. And it was like, I talked to other people and they said, yeah, he'll answer if you send him a message. And I'm like, I don't really think he's going to, because I'd sent him a message on Facebook previously.
He is intimidating.
And he doesn't really respond there. And yeah, Aaron is also just an intimidating personality in general. But when you actually talk to him, he's probably one of the softest, kindest people out there.
He really is. He's just a gentle giant.
Is he? It seems like there's a couple of people that I know in the pagan community that are similar to that, where it's like they seem to be imposing personalities, but if you contact them with certain things, that they'll respond really quickly. Is he kind of like about community building and that kind of thing? Does that seem like the reason, or
he will go wherever somebody wants to hear his side of the story. He comes across as intimidating because he doesn't take any bullshit. Like he has no time for people who carry on and banter about faith and the stuff that is just blatantly false. Like he just won't tolerate that, and that comes across sometimes as, with the Aaron Ron Kent Hovind debate, people say that Aaron was, he was too argumentative. He interrupted too many times. But if you strip everything away, here you had Kent Hovind, who for 20 years goes. You could replay. You could take one Kent Hovind debate, go and find another one, and dub it over the first one, and he would be saying the same thing over and over again.
And he's been using the same slides for years.
Right, and he never stops to go in the direction that the question is going to. He's the master at switching.
He's reading a script. Yeah.
Yes.
So this page in the script.
Well,
right. When this question comes, it's like, all right, well now we're going to talk about this prepackaged.
Sure.
Well, he also can make Gish blush. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he's big into that. So what Aaron did was ask him one question in the beginning, and would not let him get off of that question. Every time Kent tried to move to another direction, Aaron interrupted, stopped him, and tried to bring him back to that first question, because Aaron said going into it, he's not going to move past question 1 if he doesn't answer it, and he never did. He tried to go.
That's right. That was
every which way.
I remember seeing that at thinking that through the first debate, because I watched that one live, and it was funny that we had it was about an hour and a half when we started nearing the end. It was like, all right, well, we just got to a point where Aaron is somewhat satisfied with, okay, well, I have something I can work with on the first question.
Yep, absolutely.
It was like, all right, now I'm ready to move on. Well, it's time to end the show.
Well, what it did was it really showed you what Kent Hovind's all about, and that he doesn't have a good argument, because people put Kent Hovind on a pedestal from his past and how he used to be all on TV and everything. And when you break it down and you hold him to that one question, and he can't answer it, and he does everything that he can to try to get away with somebody that's not going to let him switch topics, not going to let him get out of that, I think it really shows who you're dealing with. So.
This is one of the main reasons I have the Discount Hovind series on my channel. It's because he's got the what is your worldview guy, who worships everything he says and the ground that he stands on. And as much as I've been asked by people every now and again, hey, can you cover Ken Ham? Hey, can you cover Ken Hovind? I'm like, well, other people have done that really well. What's a better angle that I can go about this? Instead of hitting Kent, just find one of the people who hero worships him so much, because there are so many. Mm-hmm. The guy, if there's anything that Kent has, it is charisma. That's like the one thing I'll ever give him, is that he is charismatic. Oh, yes.
When setting up that debate, I had to call him several times. We talked on the phone, setting it up several times. And since then, I've talked to him about 8 times since that debate on the phone. And he's very charming, very charming. I remember the first time that I talked to him, I called him up and said, hi, my name's Kyle. We'll do the Non Sequitur show. This is what we're thinking. And he said, "Oh, well, okay, all that's good and all, but let me ask you a more important question." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "What are you going to do about a job?" And I said, What do you mean? And he said, "Well, you're an atheist now, and I assume whatever you do is tied to being atheist. So when I come on your channel, you're not going to be an atheist anymore. So I need to know if you have a backup plan, and if you need be, you can come to Dinosaur Adventureland."
Oh my God, he
and,
tried to recruit you into the cult.
Yeah,
I
he's
love
very
it.
he's very charming, very
I
charming.
fucking love that. He's
Yeah,
just like, as soon as
so-
we talk to you, you're not gonna be an atheist. This is
I mean, I
great.
get it. I get the appeal to Kent Hovind, and but I just don't. After you watch one of those kind of debates with him, where he just gets so destroyed utterly, and still follow him, I don't. You're just lying to
Does
yourself
he-
at that point.
Oh my
Do you think
God.
he knows he's getting destroyed? Or
Yes.
Did he?
Yes.
He definitely has to know. The thing is, though, is that so much of his livelihood hinges on him denying that.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a question that I've wanted to get into. That like Ken Ham and Kent Hovind and all that stuff is like whether or not, like, do you think that Kent Hovind is an honest interlocutor, or do you think that he's just?
No, I think he knows
Okay.
I think he knows. Like anybody that says that the Earth is, I mean, and Kent Hovind, he's read up on the other arguments. Like he's in the middle of debates all the time, and so he's hearing these things. Right? He had a debate on our channel alone with Herman Mays and Aaron, and you hear the other sides of this. And Aaron even broke down like how he was misusing Kynes and
Right.
the clades and all that. And it seems like if he was really honest about these things, he would check into it. Like when he end the debate, a light bulb should go off and say, "You know what? I should go and take a look at that just to see if there's anything there." Believing in evolution does nothing to negate your faith in God. Like the two can be mutually exclusive. And
Right.
Yeah,
He's-
My whole time as a Christian, I believe.
me
in
and
evolution.
that's actually what JMD Apologetics had a stream a little while ago with me, Deflating Atheism, and a few others, where he just wanted atheists and Christians to talk about evolution on his channel, and pretty much all of us said, at what point does believing in evolution make you a non-Christian?
right. And the thing is, like, the two are mutually exclusive, so it does nothing to own up to the science. At some point, he's just being dishonest because, and this is my theory, all of his image, his brand, his products, all of that is tied into creation science. If there's ever a fucking thing as creation science, I think it's an oxymoron, but like all of that's tied into it. So I think he fundamentally to himself understands that evolution is a fact. I think most people do. They just
Well,
hold
he
on
believes
to
in
it.
evolution. He believes in microevolution. He just can't accept. He says that he
Well,
can't
no,
accept.
it's what he's saying versus what he knows from having.
Right.
Yes.
That's really the thing that I think is interesting about people like Kent Hovind and honestly a lot of these flat earther types, is that like they've been in so many debates. There's no way they haven't looked this shit up.
Yes.
Right.
And
They're aware.
it seems like what the alarm system goes off for me is when something that is definitely a bottled attack on them comes up in a debate and they act like it's the first time they've heard it.
Right.
That's where I get confused because I'm like, I know, like, especially with people like Kent, when you get into Eric Hovind, Ken Ham, and all these other guys, where you see that happen over time and time again, where it's like, surely you've seen this before.
Right.
Surely you've looked into like what the responses are, and there's better responses than what you're saying too. Like it's
Absolutely.
frustrating.
The biggest lie is the age of the Earth. Like
Mhm.
how anyone can still cling to the Earth being 6,000 years old when literally everything. There's no evidence for the Earth being 6,000 years old. None. Not a single shred of it.
But there is one thing we do have evidence of. DB Cisco donated $6.66 and said "Hoyt Odin."
Nice.
We do have evidence of that. That is a thing.
Yeah, it's weird because when he says that, it's weird always talking to Ocean because I forget that he's in the theist category. It's like talking to feels like talking to two atheist. You brought up Ocean. You sent me. We were talking about some gentlemen in another organization or another faction, a group, and I don't consider you. I don't put you in that camp because your views on God aren't harmful to anyone, and they don't they kind of coincide with the ideology and the kind of like the just being harmful to people or trying to tell other people how to live their life. So a lot of times I don't even stop to remember that you're a theist. It's kind of weird.
I get that sometimes, but so I'm definitely like I agree with theists a lot on like philosophical stuff. When it comes into like some of the base things, it's when you get into those specifics of Christianity that I start to disagree, and then my disagreements from those, like when you get into omnipotent God, like the pull towards salvation and a lot of those other things, the fallout from disagreeing on those things winds up in this kind of live and let live lifestyle that Christianity just doesn't have.
Sure.
It doesn't really allow.
You don't believe in the gods that I believe in. My response to that is okay.
Well,
the thing with it doesn't with Christians. If you don't believe in it, it's a whole nother thing.
Well, if you don't believe in the Christian God, as opposed to not believing in one of the polytheistic gods, your punishments are a little more infinite in the Christian faith, and that's kind of the central problem.
And hell thing.
It's even stranger because actually you go a step further than Christians because you believe in multiple gods.
Right, but I think that if I've had this conversation with Christians that when you get into Occam's razor, it's actually on the side of polytheism, and that's when.
No.
Yes, in fact, because it's a simpler deity. Which is going to be the simpler response? Is it multiple simple deities or one overly complicated, incoherent deity?
Well, classical theist would say
is neither a choice.
Well, classical theist would say between the two, it's the one deity who is only simple.
Right, and that's when you get into divine simplicity, and
I think is
I have a
utterly
lot
bullcrap.
of frustrations with divine simplicity, but that gets stupid complex quick.
I call whenever I hear that particular apologetic, my response is almost always divine simplicity sounds almost like it's trying to be simplistic by nature so that dumb people can understand it.
It just seems to be skipping steps to prove a point.
Yeah.
But get back to Kyle.
Back to the superhero of the show,
right.
Kyle, the manager of the dumpster fires.
Oh yes, manager.
when you were interviewing G-Man, did slavery come up?
The
No.
Earth is flat. The moon is a projection on the dome. Vaccines
Yes, I am now,
autism.
and I didn't learn this
Reality
until
is a
after the fact.
hologram.
We mainly talked
Nothing
about
is real.
his
Buy gold.
what got him started into YouTube and his brother. And when I left that interview, sort of feeling for the guy because I'm sure many people know, but his brother was going into the Black Hebrew Israelites. That's why his sights are set on them and why he so passionately goes after them. And I remember watching the videos of him, down in New York City, one guy versus 30 of them surrounding him. And
it was a great narrative mechanism.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, this is before I really saw who the real the G-Man is. And none of that can kind of, cover the horrible things that he's done to people. But, I left that interview thinking that, I kind of feel for the guy. Here he is doing these things, and his motivation is because not only does he feel like it's his cause as a Christian, but his brother is falling, trapped to the one group of people that he has, a sworn. It was a good narrative. I mean, it really was. So it didn't take long though for me to wake up to, what a douche he really was.
And that said, we have a few super chats I'd like to get into real quick, if I can squeeze them in here. First of all, Wolford Strongbeard donated $30, saying, the Earth is flat, the moon is a projection on the dome, vaccines cause autism, reality is a hologram, nothing is real, buy gold.
That man is woke. That
is woke and not broke.
That man is woke.
And then we also have 0132 multiple deities makes more sense. It's like asking if the universe has one moon or many moons before we could know for sure. Also, I think I might end up turning off the automatic robot voice for whenever we actually have super chats come in that are over $10, mainly because Wolfred's super chat and Kyle were fighting for volume.
Oh my god!
Fuck you, Wolfred.
I didn't hear it.
How dare you?
Well, you'll only hear it on my side or on the video side, because on my side I hear it through Streamlabs, and on the video side people will hear it through the actual video itself.
I know
No,
where
that's-
Wilfred lives, so
Yeah, that's a good feature though. That's kind of funny.
Wilfred says he's glad he got to abuse that.
Yeah, I'll concede to the Streamlabs, especially $30. You know, get that in there.
Yes. Well, it helps
Nothing
too.
I have
'cause
nothing I have to say is worth the $30. So it's
it
good.
helps considering that Zoom costs muns.
um,
Don't threaten me with a good time, Kyle. Oh, it's been threatened strong.
speaking
Beard.
of the moon being a projection and the Earth is flat, your non sequitur show is known for having some flat earthers on there.
Yeah,
How did that get
such a great?
like? Because
well-
you've gotten a few of them on there. It's not just one. You've gotten like
There's
3 or 4 of
many.
them on
Oh
the-
yes, we have many. Saturday we're actually having a double header. We have Conspiracy Cats versus Flat Out Hero at 8, and then Red's Rhetoric versus Scotty. Everybody knows Scotty, the cracked out flat earther at 9:30. It began because of my just fascination with them. After I learned about the flat Earth from Steven, that they actually existed, I began to binge watch flat Earth debates, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Like I'm not somebody that is I learn something new every show that we do from the people, just the brilliant people that we have on, because the concept of the show is that we always want to bring on somebody with a strange belief, with somebody who is an expert in that field or who has credentials or is credible, to just talk with them and try to my focus is the people who are watching, not necessarily the person that we're in a discussion with. But if there's anybody on the fence, I want to make sure that we leave them no room for leeway either way. Either you're totally going to buy this or you're not. And so I'm not somebody that is an expert in any of these fields, especially when it comes to the astrophysicists. I leave that all to them. But even I knew what these guys were saying was complete horseshit. And I was fascinated that there's a group that's gaining momentum, that they're not slowing down, they're gaining momentum. And then I learned that 10 minutes from me in Cary, North Carolina, that's where they were having the first Flat Earth conference.
Oh my gosh.
So
you should have
yeah.
gone.
If I had known what I know now, I would have, absolutely. But it just kind of became, it was like a sick fascination for me.
Is there going to be a round 2 of that convention? Because you should totally go.
It is. There's the 2019. I do plan on going. I'm going to cover it live from like a remote location.
Speaking of things that we could,
Seriously.
that we can do live, I honestly think, and I want to get the chat's reactions on this to see what they think as well. But what would you guys think if me and Ocean were to go do a docu-series on either Dinosaur Adventureland or Steven Anderson's all of his stuff, like up close?
Oh, Steven Anderson for sure. Dinosaur Adventureland.
Considering that Anderson's become such a central point
I think
of
Dinosaur Land,
some of my more meaty videos, the NIFB videos, definitely that's something that I've been thinking about doing, but I want to get the chat's
Just be careful,
ideas
man.
on whether
He
or not
seems
that's
crazy.
something they would like to see.
I would go with you to have a conversation with Steven Anderson and to sit down with him and be like, hi. I think that would be great.
This is you gotta be careful, man. He's crazy. He's absolutely
He stands on his podium and screams.
yeah. He's bizarre. Take your hammer with you. But
Oh my god, Mr. Atheist just super chatted. This is a mind fuck because I like these three so much my wee is freaking out.
who do you like more, Jimmy? Who do you like more?
We gotta find out who Jimmy's favorite is.
We also need to figure out which kind of peanut butter he likes, because based on the
Also
Godless
true.
Iowans propaganda, it would be Peter Pan, but I don't believe the propaganda.
I can't believe you get triggered by this whole peanut butter thing is just out of control, man. It's out of control.
I drove to Iowa to fight him.
And trust me, I'm an expert on out of control. That's out of control.
He withholds judgment and then says "Jiff."
So, with the flat earthers, how did you get you find them? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy that Nathan Oakley, he was the first one that came on. He runs the largest Facebook group for Flat Earth. There's over 200,000 members that he's got, and so I just reached out to him. And basically, that's how a lot we do with our guests. I'll just
200,000 members in a Facebook is how much of that is flat earthers?
the
lot.
majority of them because
Really?
they vetted you really quick. Like for me to get in, I was rejected the first time, and then I found out who ran it, sent him an email and said, "Look, this is what I want to do." That was the only. It was only then that he let me become a member. I'm still a member actually there now. But Nathan Thompson. Nathan Thompson. So he became famous and went viral because he's the guy that in a line at Starbucks confronted the NASA employee about flat Earth. It was all over the news, all over TMZ. But he like accosted a NASA worker in the line at Starbucks, and he came on and he debated Reds. Steve and Reds were really good friends, so that was actually the first debate that we did on the channel. It's Reds Rhetoric versus Nathan Thompson. Yeah, and it was just as bad as you imagine. I mean, Nate Thompson's, I remember it's weird because
disappear for a second.
That well, that's interesting. If there's somebody on the other side of that desk, then
it's actually
but believe it or not, we had 5 people watching that debate live. Like that was we had 5 people that were watching that live, and it's weird to go back because the last time Reds was on, we were at just over 1,200 people watching live. So it's weird to see I go back sometimes and watch the kind of transformation that we've gone, not only with the image of the show, like the layouts, all of that stuff. Because when we first started out, Steve is in like one corner horizontal. I'm in like a stretched video in the corner. It's just kind of, it's really cool to see.
That's how our first like 3 shows have gone.
Yeah. But yeah, that's we get a lot of our guests that way. A lot of people in the that watches will submit a suggestion, and I contact every one of them. Every suggestion that we get, I contact. Like tonight, we had Isaac Arthur, amazing guest. I mean, he was brilliant, and he was a suggestion. And a lot of them say, yeah, surprisingly, we've got some pretty big names that some of them I can't believe actually agree to come on. Like, after you read that email saying yes, we'll come on, I'm like, are you sure? Have you seen our show? So
just pray that they haven't.
Yeah. So I tell them not to watch. It's like I tell people not to subscribe. So so hopefully they don't, and until they come on, and then after that it's already over. So I can't be held responsible for any of their views.
And speaking of that, for anybody who does not want to subscribe to the Non Sequitur Show, their link will not be in the description below.
Don't.
And reverse psychology does not work.
Don't do it.
Speaking of things,
you mentioned a little bit about that before the show, that the reason why you don't shill at all. Like,
yeah, I don't. We put up the links for the stuff that we have, like our Patreon, and I'm really thankful for the people who support the show. We couldn't do it without them, honestly. But I tried to create a channel that was the opposite of everything that annoyed me with channels that were on now. Like, I hated when my biggest pet peeve, and I tell this to people before every show, I hate when people talk over each other. I can't stand it. Some channels, they'll let that stuff go. It's fun to watch people bicker back and forth. It annoyed me when I would watch these debates. People yelling over each other. I couldn't follow what they were saying. So that was the main thing. I wanted to make a channel where nobody. We tried to make it to where nobody talked over each other, where you could have a conversation with people about weird beliefs, because I think that gets taboo sometimes now. If you have something that's outside the norm, you're put in a box of, oh, this person's too crazy to talk to. I don't think you're crazy enough to talk to. Sometimes I regret being that way. Sometimes I stop and say, you know what, maybe some people are too crazy to have a conversation with. But, people who think that dinosaurs don't exist, viruses don't exist. In December, I've got people coming on that still believe in Santa Claus as adults, still believe in Santa Claus.
We have cats that do exist. Does that count for dinosaurs?
Yes, and chickens too. But I didn't want to be a shilling. Like, there are channels out there that remind you every 5 minutes to check out their Patreon. And my philosophy is, if people want to do that, they will.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to. They don't have to have me reminding them, to do that. The show's about what we have going on, and I try to stick to that as much as possible without being that annoying like salesman, because it's there if they want it, and if not, then it's fine too.
I think it's the first time that I noticed that was just when you were like, you would actively say, "Don't follow us," because you're just embracing the dumpster fire aspect of it.
Well, it's like an irony thing, because our tagline for Non Sequitur is never follow, because Non Sequitur is something that it does not follow.
It doesn't follow, right?
So never follow is sort of like a be your own person. Don't be a follower, lead. And so telling people to never follow you is just doing my tagline. It works.
And as a result, your channel is sitting at 16,000 subscribers, and I'm still sitting here at 4.6, wondering why I can't get to 5.
Yeah, it's crazy.
People to stop following you.
well, I mean, you can't beat yourself up at that either, because there are people out there who literally have channels where they throw a pair of sunglasses in a deep fryer, and they have 110,000 subscribers. So it's not a market of the content.
Is it bad that that I want to see that?
Yeah, now that you've said that, I'm just sitting there like, what does the plastic do?
But as soon as you said that, I was like, you know what? I want to see his pair of sunglasses.
By the way,
here's another thing to put in perspective. Danny Glass is a guy that we covered on the Non Sequitur has 4 different shows that run on it, right? The Smoking Nun, we cover a lot of like the woo stuff and the people who are peddling like pseudoscience and all that harmful BS. Well, Danny Glass is a guy who actively tells his viewers to drink turpentine because it will flush out the parasites in you. This motherfucker has 62,000 subscribers.
He is the parasite then. He is the parasite.
62,000 people follow this guy. Subscribe to him telling them to drink turpentine. Like, if that isn't backwards, then I don't know what is. I mean, then you have people like Jeranism who have over 110,000 when you can catch him in a lie every time his mouth moves. So, I mean, it's not an indicator of the quality of your content or what kind of person you are. It's all about getting out there, I think, is the main thing. The SEO isn't the important part of.
Well, as far as shilling goes, there is one thing I would like to shill for anybody who wants to. I do have, for at least the next 2 days, a hoodie that's available for this channel in the description below, just to tick Kyle off.
Wait, no, you know what's even better about that? He brings out the kittens when he does it. Like, if that isn't piling it on to tug at the heartstrings.
Look, right, guys, now, kittens t-shirt,
kittens,
do
hoodie. It's
Please.
winter. Oh, by the way, if you want a little more manipulation, just a little more manipulation for it, Pam's birthday is coming up, and any proceeds that are used here will actually go towards making sure that she has a good birthday.
Oh, listen to him. Listen to him. My. The cats, the girlfriend, Lord. You totally just said fuck you to everything I just said about
exactly.
the channel that chills.
That's the magic. That's the magic.
Well, I hope it works out for you.
Suris is fired.
I'm fired from my own channel.
From your own channel, yes.
Yes.
You need to stop. Just stop right there.
I wish that would happen to me. Somebody fire me, please.
Nope, you got to do this every day.
You make it work. There's another, like, I guess something that's impressed me about your channel. It's impressed me since the beginning. Was the art on the thumbnails as well.
Oh yeah,
like you throw that
when you were
inviting me on the show. You were like, please make it so that I didn't do this in vain, and you sent me the thumbnail that you were going to use.
Yeah,
it's like this big
totally
thing,
using it as a bribe.
I have to go on now.
To me, it's like the cover of a book. It's another one of those things that I saw about other channels that I really wanted to do. I used other channels as my template for what I wanted to do. I literally took a whiteboard and I would write everything the channels that I watched or that I was subscribed to and that I followed. I wrote down everything that annoyed me about them. The good things are easy to emulate, but as a whole, I think everybody gets so caught up in other things that they leave out the little things. And so I wrote out every little detail that annoyed me. And one of the biggest ones was the thumbnails. Like, people just didn't, if you're looking at your YouTube homepage, right? And there's all these videos that you have popping up in your face to choose from. One that stands out is in the thumbnail. Like, you're going to want to click that just to see, like, if the thumbnail's that good, then I wonder what what's behind that. It's like the cover of a,
it's a mark of quality. It's a mark of quality, basically.
Yeah, it's like a book cover, or an album cover. If you're looking through something that you don't know, like, let's say somebody laid out all of these books they told you don't know any of the things that are in these books. Just pick one out on the looks alone. You're going to go with the most eye-catching book cover. And so a little lesser known fact, in each thumbnail, I only went up to 263. So we just ended with this little Easter egg hunt. There's another one coming, but in each thumbnail, there hides a piece of that image. I broke an image up into 263 pieces. So in each thumbnail,
starting when?
Starting from the first day, from the first thumbnail.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because I actually
went back. The codes that I hid in my videos that people found from the first day on.
I went back and updated the first 6 thumbnails that I did with this idea and concept. But I'm a huge Easter egg person, and that's another thing that I set out to do. There are actually 6 different things that we do for the show that have Easter eggs in them. There's the thumbnail, in the now streaming card that comes on before the stream starts. There's a little something for people who look hard enough, and I'm gonna let the other ones catch themselves. But in every one of these, I hide little Easter eggs. But for the person who comes and completes that picture, they're going to get something really nice. I don't know what it is yet because I don't think anybody can do it. But for the first 263 thumbnails, there is a bigger picture that they all kind of put together and make.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you and I are kindred spirits there because my channel, for people who've been following for a while, has the hidden codes on it. Where the first one was hidden in my title. It was in webdings instead of wingdings. I knew most people were going to translate to wingdings and get lost as a result. Second one was an Easter egg hunt that was solved in a week, and that made me mad. So I made sure the third code was harder to find, and as a result, I finally had to throw the third code into a video after 6 months because nobody was finding it.
I saw that actually on your last one.
Yeah, nobody was finding it, so I finally just decided, okay, guys, it's been in every video. None of you have been able to find it. Here it is. There was a link on your hammer and all this other stuff. And, like you've got like a lot of there's like unlisted videos on your channel somewhere. There you'll find them.
Yes,
I think little things like that you can do to connect to like I love the people that watch the show, like the regulars that are in the live chat, the people on our Discords are like I just like interacting with a lot of them. A lot of them help me too. And I definitely should shout them out more often than I do. But people like Isu Lycan, who is in our Discord, like they help me all the time with people in terms of guests, like finding somebody that is an opposite view. It's just really fun to have that kind of connection, and that's what keeps me, kind of motivated to do things. Is that interaction. And I get a lot of hate mail too. There's a lot of people that hate because we talk about things. You
haven't talked about that too much, the hate mail that you get. I haven't heard you talk about it.
What kind
of stuff do you get?
Every now and then somebody will say something that I will mention, but I don't give them a lot of like airtime because it's funny to me. Like I don't look at these, I don't take anything that they say seriously or personally. There are people who have a different opinion than I do, and they can't handle hearing it. And so they feel like they have to spout off and say, whatever else. To me, like I like people that have a difference in opinion than me. I like hearing it. And so you're never going to hear a comment from me saying, "Oh, I can't believe you said this," or "I can't believe you did this." And then you have the people that a lot of them try to tell you how to run your channel. Like never have this person on ever again. Like this was just the worst. Don't ever have this person. And
they just don't want to hear the opposite opinion, so they just get really vitriolic.
Right. People take it too personally. Like you can't take what happens personally. These are we bring in two people on a heated topic that don't agree. That's the whole point of the show. And somehow you get villainized for doing that. Like people have forgotten how to talk to each other. And I think that's where you get all of these extreme groups nowadays. It's because you're expected to not talk to the other side. You're expected to stop, choose a side, and then go in that camp. And then in those two camps, you're supposed to just battle each other left and right. And people forgot. I think that might be the appeal of the channel to a lot of people, is just having people come in who are diametrically opposed to each other, having a conversation and just seeing where it goes. Sometimes it goes in a great place. Sometimes it goes in a dumpster fire. But you'd be surprised.
Sometimes you think you guys are going to get blood, and then you get me and Max on to talk about abortion. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that too. Or Sargon is probably the best example of that, because both times we've had him on, I thought that because he's got a reputation for just being like he doesn't give a shit. He says his opinion, and everybody that he talks to, it always goes badly. But both times he's been on the channel, he's been nothing but respectful. The conversations have been fantastic, and I was surprised. I put him against Adam Kokesh this past time because Adam Kokesh is a loose cannon, and I thought this was going to be the greatest dumpster fire ever. Turned out to be one of the best conversations ever. And I've noticed
that with Sargon. Yeah, like with the. Whenever I see him, like on his channel, he's bombastic, but when he gets into a debate with somebody, I think Carrier might be an exception. I haven't seen that debate, but I've heard interesting things about it. But usually in a debate, he's respectful, even though he might not be the best debater, from what I've seen.
Yeah. Well, and he's just got away with words. Like the two people he's been against on our channel, one was an intersection. They believe in intersectionality. You know, they believe that people should come together, and he was vehemently opposed to that.
About Brittany Simon, right?
Yeah, and she's fantastic. You know, and they wound up they're really good friends now. They talk often, but it's amazing how people will surprise you that way. I started debate roulette to get a dumpster fire every now and then. I thought that maybe pitting two people against each other from the live chat who aren't professional debaters, they just have an opinion, bringing them on and having them talk with each other would at some point create some kind of massive spark that would ignite a dumpster fire. We've done 14 of those episodes. Every one of them were fantastic. Every one of them were great conversations. None of them went off the rails. And then you have people like Gavin Dale, who I thought would be a pretty good conversation. I've seen their videos and they seem to have, you know, decent on their channel anyway. Conversations turned out to be the biggest dumpster fire. Kicked them both off, and
was that the flat? Yeah. That was the flat Earth discussion, wasn't it?
Yeah, that it went off the rails. Started out with him. His opening remark was, "Fuck you, Kyle, and fuck you, Steve McRae. You're both knobs, and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about." That was his opening statement.
Statement.
Yeah, you know it's going to be
Getting
good.
Off to a good start, eh?
You know it's going to be good.
Give that man some potatoes. He needs some more potatoes. At least get potatoes in his mouth. He can't speak.
You never know. Potatoes was the Monday episode. I don't even know what that. Iso, I just got done giving you high praise. What are you doing?
You got shit going down in the live chat. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I'm following the Mr. Atheist says he'll read my hate comments. Look, you can go to my comment section now, and every other one is a hate comment. So it's about 50-50.
You got a lot to go through. I have to actually fish through my comments to find hate, but when I do find hate, it's usually fairly vitriolic when I do find it.
Yeah, that's the difference. I think when you do videos on a specific topic, like the people who usually comment are subscribed to you, like they follow you in the video that you do. With us, we get the other side too to tag along, because every debate has another side, a side that is completely against what you think. So you have those people watching and wanting to comment as well. And sometimes it gets. I remember one guy told me that. How does it feel to have AIDS and to know you're going to die soon?
All the gays have AIDS, just so you know. And by the way, so do the frogs. They're all gay.
The worst comment that I've ever gotten to date, though, is the discount garden gnome one. I still can't get over that one. I had a guy tell me that I look like a discount garden gnome, and I haven't been the same since. Like, I don't understand it.
You need to embrace that one hard, though.
But I don't understand it.
Okay, look. The insulting part about that is not the garden gnome.
It's the discount part.
It's the discount part. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Kyle looks, especially with the shine on his cheeks right now from the lighting, you look like high-class ceramics. But you don't look like a discount one.
It's one of those backhanded comments, like just like call me garden gnome. Like even that would irk me because I wouldn't understand it. Like there's no connection. I see.
It's a non sequitur.
To go, I guess that one and the other, like the best hate comment that I've gotten so far is not about me personally, but just about the channel. He said, I hate this channel so much, I'm going to subscribe just so I can unsubscribe. I think that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
So with as far as like the debates going forward with kind of stuff, is there anybody that you haven't gotten on the channel but you really want on the channel?
Yes. Quite a few actually. I would love to have Mr. Mediker.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. I'm a huge Mr. Mediker fan, and he's a controversial figure, and for good reason, but I think his leanings aside politically and how he may be considered alt-right, kind of in that crowd, but you have to. I look at what he's done as a channel and what he's done as a brand, because he was really big into Gamergate, and he started out with an identity called Jim81 Jim. Then he went to the Internet Aristocrat, and now he's Mr. Mediker. But what he does is he gets to a certain amount of subscribers and where he wants to be, and then he deletes everything off his channel. And he lays low for a while, and then he pops back up, and he always sort of rises. And now he's big into the furry community and the disgusting things that one guy Kiro
I've watched too many of his videos where
Yeah,
every
he's
time,
great.
after I'm done, I'm like, I regret watching that, but then I watch the next thing that he makes. And
It's great though, right? I mean,
right. As his exploration into the Sonic fandom and deviant art, and like fetish art.
You don't want to go down the road of the Sonic fandom. That is
He
a
does.
dangerous place.
And he goes deep into it, and it's scary.
he's talented.
I've been one of the fans of the Sonic series that's been really deep into the games, and I love everything about it except the fans scare the crap out of me.
Yeah,
So-
it's definitely strange. But yeah, I'd say Mr. Medicare would be my white whale.
Who would you pit him against?
I probably do. I think I'd have to go with what's going to be, what's most topical. And if you went with what's most topical, it'd be Sargon.
Right.
I was actually going
It's
to say Sargon.
happened a couple of times on, I think, the what's the name of that show? The Kill Stream.
Yeah. Which is it's not here anymore. They got bounced, which is
Really?
yeah, they got
bounced?
they got
I didn't know
banned.
that.
There was a Wall Street Journal article that came out. They raised $24,000 on the Kill Stream for St. Jude's, and the Wall Street Journal, from what I gather, made a big stink about some of the comments that went along with those super chats. You know how Ralph's audience is. Ralph's audience is very
Yeah,
alt-right, so they make like anti-Semitic comments,
Right.
and say they just say some pretty bad stuff. And so the Wall Street Journal's bringing up how that money was attached to these. They were taking in this money with these sayings on it. So YouTube wiped every channel that Ethan Ralph owned, and they're now streaming from their website. Last time I checked, but yeah, he's not on YouTube anymore, which I think is a shame. You shouldn't hold the channel responsible for what
What other people are putting in super
watching say. I don't
Yeah.
think that's a good way to do things.
It's the same, I think it's the same thing with like when you have a guest that says something egregious. You shouldn't hold the channel responsible, especially when you tell the guest that what they're saying is egregious. Basically, what happened to Skylar Fiction.
Yeah, that's a perfect. I was going to say that. It's a perfect example. They need to reevaluate how they do those type of things, because I think that Ethan Ralph is smart enough to know what he should and shouldn't say on his stream, and he shouldn't be held accountable for what somebody decided to. Especially that they were doing this for charity. You know what I mean? Like all this money was going to. They refunded the money to everybody. They wouldn't even let him have the money. Yeah, YouTube refunded the money.
$20,000. They just
24,000.
Jesus.
And then after that, didn't YouTube start setting up that standard where if somebody says anything offensive in Super Chat, they just donate it to charity instead of letting the creator get it at all? And at that point, at that point, you have to ask, what is offensive? Like, what is considered an offensive Super Chat, and who is offended? Because honestly, especially with the type of channels that we all run, right? Anything can be offensive because we're built on having diametrically opposed sides. Anything one side says can be offensive to the other.
I think what the problem that you're going to run into is once it becomes a standard of YouTube shutting down these channels based on what the people in the chats are saying, that's going to become a thing. Like you're going to have everybody trying to go to the channels that they don't like doing that. You're going to have them going to those sending us super chats with all this egregious stuff just on the channels that they don't like, hoping that catches and they get kicked off. It's a really bad system.
It's like the Google Hangout porn bomb that you can do. If you don't like somebody, or somebody says something that you don't like and you just happen to be on there, or you have access to the link, you can just hop in and then do a screen share of porn, and congratulations, you've blown the entire channel up.
Yeah, it's not a good thing, I don't think, at all.
That was a problem with Nadia's streams back in the day. That Steve's probably told you some horror stories about Nadia Chambers' streams.
Wasn't that the Coliseum or something like that?
Yeah, she was a 24/7 channel that would just have like people fighting all the time. That's where I met Steve.
24/7. We do sometimes 9 shows a week. I can't imagine doing 24/7. That would just get no.
It became like a hub for like just debating, just theology, politics, all kinds of things, and like her room was always a dumpster fire.
anything
I'll send you
can
a
be
couple
opposed.
of like playlists or something like that. It was definitely like 100% dumpster fire all the time.
Why is
Do
this
that.
cat trying to suckle on my neck? My neck is not a nipple.
But she had the problem of people would come in and porn bomb. People would come in, get access to the link, and start deleting everybody on the Google Hangouts thing and snipe everybody out of the chat. It was a free for all, and as soon as there were abilities to compromise that free for all, it just killed her channel.
Yeah, I was going to ask what happened to her.
Yeah, she's in New York now. Last I heard that she's been working in New York, but it's kind of touch and go. She's checked in a couple of times with some other people, but the channel is gone, or it's a lot of things are unlisted now, but I think some of it still exists.
Yeah, I think that has to take a toll on you. I think mentally, with that kind of it takes a toll. Like sometimes you feel like you get burn out a little bit on things, and like I said, it's the people that watch that kind of bring you out of that. Like every time that I've gotten close to being burnt out, there's always been somebody that would send. I get a lot of emails that thank me for what we do as a channel, and it's very humbling to read those. But sometimes it's like, wow, you don't know the impact that you have on people until they stop and tell you something like that, and that brings you right out of that kind of burnout feeling. But 24/7, I can just imagine the chaos that goes along with that.
At that point, there's not even burnout. It's just the match has been consumed. There's no capacity to reignite.
Yeah,
she would put on a stream and go to sleep, and then the dumpster fire would rage, and then she'd come back and then manage it. But she was a programmer that was running the channel out of desperation to pay the bills because she didn't have a job. And people in the this is before Patreon really took off. It was before there was super chats, or really any way to monetize the channel other than AdSense. And she was just getting views and doing 24/7 and getting as much watch time as possible, always having something live. And it worked fairly well for her for a little while, but I got to a point where it wasn't sustainable anymore because of the functions on Google Hangouts.
Did she always have a feed going on that, like on her room or wherever she was streaming from? Like it was just the camera always on? Wow.
Often she would, yeah.
That had to be nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm.
Just constantly
always a camera just going into her room.
Like, it's nerve-wracking to me just being on camera a couple times a week. I could imagine it being nerve-wracking being on camera as your existence.
Right.
Yeah. Our stream schedule too is crazy, but it's funny. I always ask myself, are we going to run out of things to talk about? Like, are we going to get to the point where we've just covered everything that we can? And it doesn't seem like. I wake up some mornings and I'm terrified to open my inbox, like just petrified. Like I do everything that I can not to open my emails, because there's always something every day, a little nugget of somebody that says, I have this belief, or I found this guy for you.
Do they contact you? People with just like
a lot of them do.
Sometimes
a lot of them do. Some of them are the majority of them are people that find a person with a strange belief. Like ESO again sent me one that we've got coming up at the end of November, and he doesn't believe in autumn. He thinks autumn is a hoax.
He thinks autumn is a hoax.
Yes, you can go to
the season.
Yes, the season.
The season.
If you go right now to our.
Why didn't you schedule that? You're scheduling that in autumn, right? Please tell me is that coming up in the next month?
Yeah, it's going to be the end of this month. But his channel is Our Founding Liars, and the first video that's up there is the season autumn is a hoax. And basically what he says is that because there are, obviously everybody knows this, reptilian people that exist.
Sorry, they're called reptoids. Get it right.
That's up for debate. You must be with the Rockefeller types of reptoids. See, in the Bilderbergs,
I can neither confirm nor deny.
In the Bilderbergs, it's completely different. But yeah, it's connected to all that, obviously, because reptiles need.
Does he believe like it's a hologram, like the tree's changing or something like that?
It's hard for me. That's why I'm having him on the show to kind of go into that a little bit. But something about
what does he think about winter and summer?
It doesn't mention those.
Okay.
He can neither confirm nor deny that winter or summer exists.
Yeah,
what happens in between the two? Like, does the leaf change colors and fall off, or is
Eso's right in the live chat? He said that the dude is actually pretty pleasant. He is, and that's what you find with a lot of these people that have crazy beliefs. Maddie's Paradigm, one of my favorite people to talk to outside of his belief. We have very pleasant Twitter conversations. He follows the show. The guy's got 60,000 followers on Twitter, 60,000 people that subscribe to his theory, which is that hell is in the center of the earth, and that because of the rate is expanding, that's what's causing global warming. That's where you get the overheating of the earth, and that is because hell is literally cracking through the planet.
So he believes that hell is exothermic.
Sure. Sure.
Oh my gosh.
We'll go with that.
I will say that for people like that, there are some people that just need to walk outside for more than 10 minutes a day and get exposure to something other than their mother's basement.
Well, it's like people who I found that people who either at one time were religious or something happens and they leave their religion, they always replace it with something else. They replace it with one of these types of feelings. And to me, like, if you ask me, I don't think
a lot of them atheists. Do you think, or do you get?
Majority of them are religious, but what they do is they supplement it in. So you don't have people who do the traditional type of religion. They don't go to church every Sunday. They're not watching their language. They're able to cuss and all these things. But what they do is they replace that community, like an actual physical church, with an online community in a whatever specific pseudoscience thing that they believe. To me, flat earthers don't really believe the earth is flat. I don't think any of them. You might have one or two on the planet.
I was wondering that. Like, how many of them do you think are posed?
I think all of them are. Well, I think that they all know that the earth is a globe. What this is for them, you have a group of people who are jaded and who feel like they've been lied to about something. A lot of times, like with Wonton, it stems from something else. They think that if evolution was a lie that was perpetrated to them. So they then lump that everything that the government tells you is a lie. So these are just a group of people who are jaded and who felt like they've been wronged by the man, and they're all kind of banding together under the banner of Flat Earth. It's an overarching club.
Can I suggest a better, less toxic community for these people to go to that doesn't involve really dumb shit beliefs?
Are you saying that the trading card game community is less toxic than
the Flat Earth community? Yes.
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me?
Is that still a thing though? Is like Magic the Gathering with cards and all that? That's still
they just released. They're releasing now a digital version of Magic the Gathering Arena.
It is honestly, Kyle, it's bigger now than it used to be, because now, for instance, if I wanted to, I could go to like an ARG championship and win $20,000.
How is that possible? Like with cards, like that's so.
How is it possible with poker? How is it possible with racing? How is it possible with football?
How
is it possible with hockey?
Are you a fan of the quartering?
Quartering?
Yeah.
I have no idea what that is.
The YouTube channel, The Quartering, he's really huge into the Magic the Gathering. It's like the biggest Magic the Gathering channel.
I recognize the name, but I don't think I've watched it.
The question pretty much always boils down to is, if there's a way that it can be monetized, then and it's competitive, there's a way for it to function. For instance, I know people, because I used to be a tournament operator, who play Super Smash Brothers and make $40,000 a year just playing Super Smash Brothers competitively. That's just tournament winnings. That's how they sustain themselves.
I just watched. I mean, a couple weekends ago, I just watched somebody win $200,000 playing StarCraft. So,
yeah, no, these
so bizarre to me.
It's really no different than
watching StarCraft, like esports.
It's really no different than football,
basically. So
what?
It's no different than football. Think about how much a football player
I have
makes.
found that the reason why I watch it and the amount that I pay attention to it is very similar to football fans.
Yeah,
like
it is exactly
I get into
the same.
I'm interested in just like when I was younger, somebody said about football games to me that they watch a game every single time they can get their hands on one, and I was like, I don't understand that.
And then you started watching a game you actually cared about.
I started watching StarCraft, and I was like, I just started watching games. Like
it's the same thing that happened.
What's on the line for it, but it's more interesting when there's $200,000 on the line.
I'm that way with First Amendment auditors and urban explorers. Like, I binge watch those like crazy. I mean, yeah,
Fred,
they're amazing.
Fred Knotts just said in the chat.
Are you
that,
talking like sovereign citizens and all that kind of stuff?
No, well, go ahead and read what you need to in this.
I know the First Amendment auditors. I know about them, but they'll go up to like an airport or something like that and just walk around with a camera until someone talks to them.
They're not really sovereign citizens. They just they take the First Amendment thing to like the nth degree, and they're also the people with that take guns and like strap guns outside.
Oh,
those are just libertarians.
We'll walk down sidewalks. Yeah, but it's crazy to see like the and then the urban explorers I love because of the history. Like they'll go in all kind of abandoned places, and we've had a First Amendment auditor on the show, and that's the beauty about doing a show that never follows, because you can literally do it on any interest that I have. I immediately try to find somebody in that community to come on and talk about it. And
whereas for me, I have to make an entirely second channel for my other interests.
Do you really? Why?
Because
for the gaming thing.
Because my main interests are gaming, but I got into the atheist debate scene, and that became another hobby of mine that I became almost as passionate about. That happened to be the channel that took off, so that is where I have every discussion there. But when I'm talking about strictly gaming, for instance, Max, the person who I was debating abortion with on Non Sequitur Show, me, him, and a few other people who otherwise would not be in the same speaking sphere, we're all just talking about retro games and comics and stuff like that on my other channel. And we have it changed around here because my actual platform for my Skeptic channel is not gaming. So when I introduce anything else, it gets fewer views and the algorithm eats me alive. I don't have a platform that's built around having multiple things there. I have a platform that's built around being focused. So I have to have a different focus channel.
I don't get that either. I don't understand the.
I don't have a channel. I just go rogue.
Watching somebody play games. I can't wrap my mind around that. I really can't. Like
it's the
I
same
couldn't
thing
either
as
until I started
football.
watching StarCraft, and then it depends. Like you gotta love the person who's playing the game, or you gotta love the game that's being played. I think that's it.
Like personally for me, I couldn't stand and I couldn't get why people would sit down and watch football, because my family's a football family. Like all of them have their teams they root for, and that's what they do when they get together. I didn't get it until like 2 years ago when me, Pam, Walker, and a few others went to our local card shop. The League of Legends World Championship was going on. We put that on the 70-inch TV that they have there at the local card shop and just sat down and watched. And just people started funneling over to the couch and all started sitting down and watching World Championships with us. And we're just like...
It's like, now I get football.
Yeah, I sat there and I'm just like, wait a minute. We're all sitting here with sodas in our hands, snacks on the table. This is no different than people watching football. Oh, God, I get it. That's pretty much where it happened with me. I'm just like, okay, I understand now.
There's a huge market for it. I mean, a huge market for it. It's just one of those things that, we all have our things that we see and we're like, I don't get that, but that's just one of mine. Like, I just can't, I can't concentrate or stop to concentrate enough to play a game, let alone watch somebody else play one.
That's just because you have penis on the mind, though.
This is true. That is true. That's very true.
Ocean's just like, what?
Like, what the? All right.
Usually oceans.
All right, now I'm gonna. All right.
All right.
he just has to leave out. Just remember.
I do get the occasional unsolicited message from Kyle.
It's funny because for some reason a lot of people don't really believe that I am gay. I've gotten so many messages with people saying, I just heard one of your episodes where you mentioned some gay comment, and they're like,
right.
I had no idea you were gay, and
I just never cared. It's not a thing that factors in.
People care though. That's the funny thing. People care about the weirdest things, and this is something where I'm like, every response that I have, I'm like, it's not something that it's not an act. It's not a character that I'm playing on Non Sequitur. That I guess it's because I don't have the.
You're not Steve's gay best friend on Non Sequitur. You're just the gay best friend.
I guess because I don't have the the stereotypical cadence or.
You've got the fashion.
Yeah, in the winter, I do now in the wintertime that you can tell. In the summertime you can't because it's just t-shirts. But
right, no, that's I'm annoyed. I like fashion and shit. And it's during the summer. I'm like, I don't know what to wear.
Yeah,
it gets cold.
It's
I'm
just
like,
during winter you can put on the layers and you can actually have it look like an ensemble.
Exactly.
Yeah, In the wintertime
during summer,
is
it's horrible.
definitely better for like I love as soon as we hit cold weather, I was like, oh, because I have a really bad tie fetish and a sport coat fetish. Like I bet you I have 80 sport coats. Seriously, I'm just obsessed with them.
Is this
So,
fetish like wearing them, or is this?
and there's a funny thing because there are
He
there
dodged
are-
it. He dodged it, Ocean.
Dodged it.
Oh, fuck you, ESO. I was not puffing out my chest. But it's funny because there's some days where we have like 3 streams on one day. So like Saturday, for instance, we have 2 streams. Sunday, we have 2 streams. I stop in the middle of these streams to go and do a complete wardrobe change because I don't want back-to-back videos of me in the same thing. I thought it was going to be late.
Opposite way, I have uniforms. Like
What's that?
there's like specific like it's a uniform is it's not like I've got like a little tag or something like that, but I have like specific outfits that I wear. I just alternate through them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to do
my
it.
life simpler.
Yeah,
But it's like there's specific things that I'll wear with each other, and it's like you'll see it whenever I appear on some stuff. It's like sometimes I'm wearing the same outfit. It's just not at the same time, But yeah, there's like specific things. But
I'm just a fickle like fashion person. I'll put on something and then 5 minutes later I hate it. Like I'm just sitting there miserable, and I can't go on live
You're just making me
hating what I'm wearing.
Making me feel self-conscious, Kyle. I'm just looking at this one T-shirt and going, I feel really underdressed. But then I remember I have cats, and everything's better.
Yes, you win. You do win. Trevor says no self-respecting gay guy would unflatteringly expose their skin tone under that green screen. Well, that's not my fault. That was a.
We tried to lead it out.
Hold on. You said self-respecting. Do you think anybody who would run the non sequitur show and deal with the amount of shit that Kyle has to deal with still has that?
Listen, man, I lost every single bit of being self-conscious from episode 4 on. Like from now on, it's just this is what's going to happen. It's part of the charm, I think.
You just accept it.
Throw another random question at you. What's the subculture that you've wound up having on the show that you were the most surprised to have discovered that exists?
Incels, hands down.
Really?
Yes. I think
subculture of not getting pussy.
Tell me about them and why. What surprised you?
I think they're just such a toxic and just horrible group. I mean, you have a group of guys who blame everybody else for the fact that they are involuntarily celibate. Like it's everybody else's fault. And instead of taking an initiative to move from behind the keyboard and work on what they need to get laid, which is a personality. I don't care who you are or how you look. If you have a personality, you can get laid. All right.
I mean, I have a girlfriend and I'm ugly as shit. There you go.
But so if you take the time to do that instead of sitting in forums all day long, complaining about how it's everybody else's problem, saying that you want to kill every Chad and Tyrone, that Chad and Tyrone's, by the way, Chads are the white, the stereotypical good-looking guys. Yeah. Tyrones are the black, stereotypical good-looking guys.
And the fact that there's a divide between the two speaks to one of the problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you would just take the time to go out and get involved with people, like be social, learn how to, have a conversation with people. We actually had one on that talked to Logic, and it was every bit as a trainer as you could imagine. He was talking about how what turned me on to him to come on the show was he tweeted out something that's something like I think more women should die in the garbage cleanup business, so that it's not just men who are dying. It's just very very nasty. And,
it's like, wouldn't the better option be you would like less people to die, and then you would have, if you had fewer men dying in the garbage cleanup business, you would achieve the same result.
Right.
There would just be less death.
Right.
Is he talking? Is he trying to make a point about men taking the riskier jobs or something like
yes,
that?
Yes, exactly. I mean, he's saying that if women truly want to have equal rights, he's making the claim about, they bitch all the time about the wage gap. Why don't they actually take these jobs that men are taking and risk, these deaths that men are doing? So he was saying,
I know a bunch of women that have tried to work in construction. Construction's a dangerous job, and a lot of times they get blocked from it.
Yeah, it's just a it's just a bad I think it's just a bad culture. I just don't understand it. And I usually I give everybody a little leeway. You know, I don't try to like think how they do, but some of them.
I wonder how many incels are actually female, because at that point you could just
Yeah,
make
You mentioned that the guy, the guy in the first show, that just seemed like a little bit more reasonable. It was like a first part of the show. There's like an ex-incel.
Yes.
And he talked about like the genesis of the community, and that there were some women, and it split evenly.
He started out. He said that it started out as a support, and I can see that. I can totally see how it started out as a group of guys who felt like they were nobody liked them, that they didn't fit in anywhere, and they just kind of grouped up. That's natural. That's a natural thing, especially online. You're able to connect to so many people all around the world, and as long as it stays like that, it's not anything toxic.
Couldn't they couldn't they just make a dating app for incels where incels could find other incels, and then they would be able to actually stop being fucking incels?
Yeah, well, that's what he said. Like he actually took the time. I think he said he joined some club or something, but he met somebody there, the person that became his wife, and the moment that he took the time to stop being on a forum just bitching about it all day, and he actually made steps to go out and meet people, he met somebody. That's wow,
what a magical scenario.
Going
out to meet people helps.
Somebody asked, what's an incel? An incel are a group of guys that
involuntarily celibate.
Yeah, involuntarily celibate. They think that they can't get laid, and it's not their fault, basically.
Somebody in the chat has asked me to ask you about FWRF. FWBRF.
Yes, that's a hilarious thing. Okay, so we had a debate between Nate Talks to You and MRAS, the feminist next door, and afterwards we had an after show. Holy Kool-Aid was in it, and we were talking about sort of like this conversation, like how we get to the point where we have all of these groups. And I've always said, like, there's too many groups. Like, everybody has a club for everybody now, no matter how niche your kinks are, your likes, your hobbies, all that stuff. No matter how
the blood play community
specific, there's something for you. That's a horrible thing, by the way.
Are you sure about that? Have you tried?
There is a group in ESO. What is the group of? Help me out in the live chat. There's a group of feminists who are really against trans people.
TERFs.
Yes, TERFs.
Trans exclusive.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we were talking about them, and Holy Kool-Aid. I said this. I said, I guarantee you that there isn't something you could think of off the top of your head that isn't already a group. And so Holy Kool-Aid decided he was going to take me up on that, and he said, "What about FERFs?" And I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, he's just making this up off the top of his head. He said furries that with the rest of the TERF. What's the TERF stand for?
Exclusionary radical feminist.
Right. So this was furry exclusionary radical feminists. And so he said, so we went on the we went on the computer and or Google and opened it up, and I typed that in. Swear to God, there's a group. Swerve or FERFs exists. That's a thing.
You've got
they even use the same acronym that he came up with?
Yes, absolutely. To the T. To the T.
You have to remember there's over 7.5 billion people in the world, and there's probably fewer than 7.5 billion interests. As a result, you're going to have some cross-pollination, and therefore some groups.
It's so, I mean, we have a lot of people who are furries that watch, and at first that was a group I didn't understand either. Like, it was so new to me, and I couldn't. That and bronies, I couldn't wrap my head around either of those.
I go to anime conventions. I've seen both.
Oh, animes of the devil. Stop going there.
Animes of the devil.
Anime Weekend Atlanta, or there's either Anime Weekend Atlanta or Dragon Con, one of them. It was always on the same weekend as Furry Weekend Atlanta.
Well, and
it was in a hotel that was down the road. So I would go to one and then be walking down, and I saw all these people walking by. This is how I discovered furries. I saw all these people walking by in wolf outfits, and it was mostly like
fursuits.
dogs, but you would see like other animals tossed in there every once in a while, like sometimes one with antlers and whatever.
Sometimes you get the mythical ones too.
It's
Some
just
people
like-
are like
It
dragons.
frightens
Yeah,
me.
dragons and stuff. And I was like, what is this? And I wound up like discovering this whole community.
Yeah, it
Like,
frightened me at
it was-
first. That and bronies frightened me at first. I've grown to have a sort of
How
a
are bronies frightening? They're just guys that like a cartoon.
well, I mean, in the sense that
I want
didn't
to hear this.
you know, I didn't understand those communities when I first heard about them. I thought both of those were made up. I thought whoever was telling me at the time was just completely seeing how gullible I was. I didn't get that there were people who, were fans of My Little Pony. Like, to me, that just didn't compute. It didn't register as making sense to me. So
To be fair, you can thank Lauren Faust for that.
well, I've grown to really the people that I know from this communities. I really love the people that I've been interacting with. It's one of those things that I had to actually get to know the people. I judged it based on just the weirdness of it because
Right.
For somebody like me, it is weird. You have to understand that. Like, it's not a knock against that community, but for me, looking out, at that community, it's just weird coming out. But I met these people, got to know them, and then they told me like. I had a guy explain to me why he's a brony, and I understood at that point. So I had to admit that I was a little bit
Did
prejudiced.
you watch the show for more understanding, or did you?
No. I'm not gonna. I'm going to take their word for it. I'm gonna take their word.
I'll honestly say what happened with me is I had a friend who like described the show, and I went, okay, I don't care. And then he went, well, did you like Powerpuff Girls growing up? I was like, yeah, that show was awesome. It was a show that like I was embarrassed to watch as a kid because to me it was like, oh yeah, it's a show that says girls. That means it's bad. But then he was like, yeah, it's the same director, the same person who built that show, built this, and like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. And lo and behold, later I'm 6 seasons in, and I'm like, this is a good show. I hate my life.
Yeah.
Get 6 seasons in.
As long as it stays there, like as long as it stays within, you can take things to extremes, right? And that's where you have
Right,
the.
do you dress up as one of the characters?
No.
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you a story that happened to me. Speaking of hate mail, if you stay in the realm of things like furries or bronies, and it's not anything that you let it affect your life in a very impactful way, it's fine as long as
there's a difference between making Sonic porn and throwing it on DeviantArt,
right. But
and
I literally
then trying to live that out.
I literally had someone send me an email because I made a joke about there was a person on YouTube that identified as a wolf. Like, they identified as a wolf. They're not a man. They're not a woman. They identified as a wolf. And to me, that is preposterous and the stupidest. Like, if you identify as anything other than a human being,
than a primate,
you're just stupid. And so this person sent me an email and just lit me up for like 4 pages. It would have printed out to be 4 pages, telling me how I am intolerant, how I need to understand that it's not just about being a man or a woman or a human, even that you can be a wolf, and you cannot be a wolf. You can't be a wolf. It's impossible. You just can't be a wolf. I'm sorry, you can't.
Have you seen?
You can have a persona, but that's not the same thing as being that.
Right.
And
You
that's the
can't
thing that
identify as a wolf.
There's a you've seen the Medicare stuff on furries.
Oh yes, yes.
So
yeah.
you've seen how they behave and all this other stuff. It's
Well,
like,
Yeah, well, some of them do, and like I don't want to.
Yeah.
The thing with that is, yes, there are horrible people in the furry community. There are horrible people in every community. The people.
no, I'm
that,
not talking about. I was just talking about like mannerisms. I'm not talking about the controversial stuff. Like, when you-
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it's just like you get people that bark occasionally, and it's like, well, yeah, I identify as a wolf. And it's like, okay, well, you just barked. Yes, because I'm a wolf.
that's pretending. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I don't think that at their core they honestly identify as a wolf. They still do human things. Like a wolf. If you identified as a wolf and you truly believed it, you would be out in the wilderness. Trying to run in a pack or attacking everything that moved. You would just not go in a house, because why? A wolf wouldn't do that. That wouldn't be something that a wolf would do. So they consciously know that they're just pretending to be a wolf, but they want to have this cause, like, oh, well, you don't accept me because I'm a wolf. Well, then something's wrong with you. That's the thing that pisses me off. They make it sound like something's wrong with me because I won't accept them being a wolf. And there's nothing wrong with me. It's them.
There was one. I'll have to find this and send it to you. But it was a Tumblr post that I read at one point, where somebody was talking about how they identified as a vegan turtle, and they were talking about the challenges that came with that and dealing with their family, and that also the vegan turtle was not the only personality that was there. There was another. There was a few other like animals as well that they were furry with. So it was like multi. I think it's like headmates. I think Metacritic made a video about it at one point. But it's like headmates, but furries as well. So there's this great diatribe involving this the adventures of this person who would occasionally front as a vegan turtle.
Yeah, I mean,
he was fighting for. So
I don't know, man.
There is a super chat. There's a super chat from Paulovapagus. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I could be wrong.
Wait. Say that again.
Puffalopagus.
Puffalopagus. Polypacayas.
I am papaya. There we
Enunciation.
go. It is now papaya. But it is Kyle. Can you get Sean on Non Sequitur Show?
Sean who?
That's a
Who's
good
Sean?
question. We can let them. Well,
I'm sure there's more than one.
There's at least 3 Seans in the world.
Has to be.
At least 3, possibly 4.
There might be 5.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical of that.
People are interesting. Like life is beautiful, and the part of that is how people are different. But
I think
you can always take things to extremes, and I think
it's safe to say that that's kind of where it is, because like for me, I've been to anime conventions. I know a lot of people who are furries. I have no problem with furries, but when people are extremists, then that's obviously a problem. But you have extremists everywhere. You can have extremists in the atheist community. You can have extremists in several Christian communities. You can have extremists in the furry communities. We've actually seen there have been hotels during certain conventions that have been completely destroyed by some of those extremists in those communities, to where they won't even accept them anymore. It's the extremism that's the problem.
It's funny that you wind up getting extremist breakoffs with a lot of this stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say that they're usually the loudest people and the ones that do the most harm to their causes, like their overall cause. The extreme people are the ones that get the attention because everybody loves a train wreck. I mean, my show is evidence of that. Like, we have shows that I think are educational. We have PhDs come on to do presentations. They get like a third of the views that the shit shows like Flat Earth and people who don't believe in viruses and dinosaurs get. So that's evident that people want the as much as people like to say don't have Flat Earthers on anymore. Right. They all still watch. That's the thing.
Like I think I told you that a couple of times where it was like, it's a flat, but I was one who, whenever there was a Flat Earth thing, I was like, I'm bored because I'm like,
there's no conversation.
You're different though. I think
I was in the Flat Earth community for a little while for fun because I thought it was an interesting. What I did was I went in there and I trolled atheists, and I did that for like 2 weeks, and then I had my fill and I left.
Yeah.
And
I got kicked out of one. I got kicked out of a Facebook group of Flat Earthers because I linked them to a website where they could actually take a cruise ship to the South Pole, and they freaked out and they were like, "Why would I ever want to be cold?" And then I was kicked out. And I'm like, "Wait, so the fact that I brought something that shows you that your worldview is absolute horseshit, that's scary?" Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be Flat Earth either. People are just drawn to the controversy. Like even if it's
watch the piss drinking one.
Yeah, yes. That one, Aaron Ra and Kent Hovind, like they love the confrontations. I'll use the analogy with the First Amendment auditors. They have some episodes of people who go into these First Amendment audits where everything's fine. There's no confrontation with the police. They just go in the building. No one says a word to them, and they just leave. Now that is a positive and what should happen on these things, but nobody wants to see that. They want to see the episodes where they have the confrontation with the police, or there's that threat of arrest. They love the controversy.
Well, it's the interesting thing. It's either that, or you just see. There's a difference between seeing somebody go about their day-to-day life and then seeing somebody go about their day-to-day life when they happened upon a car wreck.
Yeah,
one of those things is interesting. The other one is not.
Right. So I mean, we kind of have to play to that. And some of them are fascinating to watch. Like it's just amazing to hear somebody say that they don't believe in space when
you look up at night and you're like, oh, look at all that.
Right. Yeah.
The reverse of it, though, with the Flat Earthers one is that one of the things that because I've watched a couple of them, where I was like, all right, what the fuck? Why are people watching this? Is Red's rhetoric. Red's rhetoric has kind of like risen out of the flat Earth craze as being like when I watch Red's rhetoric talk to flat earthers, I find that I learned things.
Yeah,
oddly enough, like
I'm brilliant.
But he's got all these reasons about why flat Earth is bad, and it didn't occur to me that there were reasons beyond flat Earth. There were reasons for flat Earth is stupid beyond it's round, guys, and the horizon, things like that, like the really, really simple, straightforward stuff. Right. Reds goes into like all of these other things that would have a fallout from there being a flat Earth that are amazing, like how gravity works,
as well.
How light works. In order for it to be how we see it and still be flat.
Right.
And then you wind up with this incoherent framework. It was amazing seeing him work like that.
And that's the thing that I like about our show. Like, if I'm being completely honest, like the people that we have come on to debunk them, like even with Joe and he said viruses didn't exist. We have on these opposite people who are brilliant in their field, and you will always learn something. Like, she was an immunologist, Dr. Peachy King, that came on to talk to Joe, who didn't believe in viruses. And she will take you through how they, how the virus forms, how it infects you just learn stuff, like no matter what the topic is and how absolutely bizarre it is and out there. The people that you have come on to kind of counter those points are always going to teach you something. And so, yes, we do host dumpster fires, and they're crazy, but I guarantee you'll always walk away with something you didn't know out of those dumpster fires, or something that just interests you to know that people think that way.
Yeah. The next thing that I want to ask is it has to do with this Sean guy that people, because I asked like who he is and all this other stuff, and it brings up another thing that I've wanted to ask you about. So this guy Sean apparently is somebody who goes after alt-right arguments and so on. Like, he's a debunker for about like alt-right, white nationalist kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Have you explored the idea of having that on the show? I don't recall you having like alt-right politics and any of that stuff on there.
I would be okay with having an alt-right person on there, as long as it didn't go into the one area that I won't go into is the race issue.
Yes.
I just think that it's disgusting, and I don't want to hear anything that anybody has to say about reasons why we should discriminate against anybody.
At the end of the day, we're all the same freaking race.
Right.
There's only one real race here. It's the human race.
I won't entertain that. Now, if it was a conversation about like if one of them was anti-SJW, I would be all for that.
Because there's actually opinions at play there.
Yeah, and I myself have mixed views about the SJW community. So to me, it would be very interesting.
So you're not interested in having like the white nationalism discussion or any of that kind of stuff?
No, I have no desire to hear any opinions they have. They're vile people to me. They're deplorable, and I will give them no amount of airtime. Like, I'll have the dumbest. I'll have people on the show that believe that Santa Claus still exists before I will have someone like Richard Spencer on to spout his bullshit about why white people are better than.
Would you have somebody on like Sean apparently that's like debunking them, and have him just talk about like what the beliefs are? Like, because there's Sean and somebody that I know that does this. That I watch their videos is ContraPoints. And ContraPoints is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having ContraPoints on your show would be like
I've reached out to
like my dream get for you.
I've reached out to ContraPoints. Somebody like now the one thing that I have explored doing, and I'm still trying to. You got to find the right person for this though. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows Dr. Sygart.
Yes.
He's what he does, or what he specializes in, is race in terms of is it biological, or is it a social construct? And he actually has several debates, one at the Smithsonian, where he debates this issue, and he's brilliant at it, where he explains that it's not biological. Some people think that it's that way, but you have to find somebody that doesn't go into the race. There's one race that's better than the other. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you can argue that with just.
I have a debate to send you then, because I hosted a debate with a guy named Tom Rabbit that was there was a guy that was a race realist. His username was Science and Race, and we pit him against a guy named Joe Sonseed, who had done.
I know Joe.
Yeah, Joe's great. So it was Joe Sonseed versus this guy Science and Race, and he didn't go into the like supremacy aspect at all. He just wanted to talk about scientifically there's distinct races, and that conversation was intense.
Yeah, it's a touchy thing. It's a I would approach it though in that scientific kind of construct with someone who believes it's a biological thing, and someone like Dr. Carter who thinks it's just a social construct, that it's merely a thing that we create in our heads.
The problem is finding somebody like that has credentials of any kind.
Sure.
I don't think
because that's the thing is if you've got somebody who's not saying something like completely outrageous, because obviously when you've got somebody outrageous, you can just pit somebody with credentials against them and go, this is why you're wrong. Right. But if you want to actually have that discussion, you want to have a dialogue between the two, you want to have people with equal credentials that have differing views, because then...
But I don't know, you pit flat earthers against PhDs sometimes, so it doesn't necessarily matter.
Well, and I do that for because if you need somebody on there that can explain these things like to the detail, like, because it's easy on the person of the conspiracy to create sort of these wild theories, because they're not really, they're not playing with anything tangible or anything based in evidence. So they can say, well, it's not that there's space up there, it's the firmament. You know what I mean? Like, even though there's no basis for the firmament being there, so you need somebody to explain why that's not possible. And when they try to push you, you want somebody that can push back with how it really is. So I think, to me, it's not a handicap. If you're going to make outlandish claims like that, then you need to talk to somebody who knows it inside and out. And if they're a PhD and you still walk away from that conversation believing your nut job theory compared to somebody who's studied this for a living, then you're just unwilling to learn facts or evidence. You're signed off to this. You're committed to this no matter where the truth takes you. At that point, you stop looking for truth, and it's all about the conspiracy. You got to cling on to that conspiracy. And, in that case, then you're on your own, and I can't do anything for you.
I think that's probably a good place for us to wind up.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to...
I'd also say if there's any
I know you want to plug everything, Kyle.
Yeah, don't subscribe to Non Sequitur. If you've never heard of us, then do your health a favor and don't do it.
I'd say if there are any questions in the live chat, you guys have about 3-ish minutes to get your questions into Kyle.
Ask away. Ask me anything.
Yes, this is the Kyle Curtis AMA, but not hosted on Reddit, because none of us know how to do that.
I love Reddit, but it scares me.
Reddit has intimidated me. I've had a username for a long time, but I've made like maybe 2 posts on it, and I've like lurked around. What happened was that I wound up going to Our Heathenry, which is the religious identity, and I just found a bunch of racists. I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah, that's the thing about Reddit. No one gives a fuck about what they post.
For me, Reddit was intimidating for the first time that I posted a video on there, and then I realized that most of the time I just post the video that I just released on my channel into the appropriate area, and then I'm good, up until the point where another area says that, we have to delete your post.
I'm good with Reddit now. Like, it took me a while to get used to it, but I like Reddit now. The one place that scares me more than anything is 4chan. Like, that place is just...
4chan is fine, just avoid B. If you avoid B, you're fine.
I learned
it's frightening.
So... I was I was in college. That was my introduction to the internet was 4chan.
Also, Puff asks you, Kyle, what was your favorite job? And don't say blow. Don't say blow job.
This one.
Yeah,
I've had many for me, I always, if I get an idea in my head that I want to do something, like, I obsess about it and go into it like hardcore. And I've done that with being a chef, being a stand-up comedian. And I just basically like to create anything that I'm doing where I'm creating or unlocking what's going on in my head and able to kind of produce it take it out of my head and put it into a physical form. I'm all about. So you're able to do that with food. You're able to, and you're able to alter the thing that you don't take a second back to stop and kind of admire is that you're able to influence people's evenings, their afternoons, their special events, rehearsal dinners, wedding parties. What you put on a plate is going to have a direct effect on how the rest of their night goes. So it's really kind of cool. And stand-up comedy is the same way. You have people that come to you for comedy shows, and maybe they're having a bad day or a bad week, and you're the only thing that's standing in the way of them either continuing to have a bad week or it getting a little better because you're able to laugh about something that
you can be
you
the one thing that turns their day around.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. But yeah, do what you love. That's the important thing. Don't ever get stuck in a situation where you hate getting up in the morning because life's too short for that.
This might be a more complicated question, but I told you I wanted to bring up a little bit about your appearance on Modern Day Hysteria.
Yeah.
How did that? Because it seems like you branched out a little bit, and you've made a couple of appearances on some other shows where you're representing your views, and it's like not a debate. It's kind of a discussion. Sometimes it's kind of a debate. What was your impression on that appearance? Like, how did that happen? And
he asked me to come on. I think he heard my talk with Doug from Pine Creek, and heard like my prison story, and was kind of interested in dissecting how somebody can go from being super religious to 25 to leaving that behind. And I thought it went well overall. I think he tried to get stuck on several points that I had no interest in hinging on, and I think that some questions that I asked him he felt were a little too, I guess, trying to get him in a gotchas scenario, and it wasn't. I was just asking questions based on what he was saying. None of that stuff was I knew going ahead of time, but for what it was, I think it was fine.
Like, you generally don't like philosophy, right? Like,
right. Well, it's not that I don't like it. I think some people weaponize it and use it to deter conversations that otherwise should be like, I like a free-flowing conversation like here tonight. Now, I'm sure you could go back and you could throw up, I don't know how many times I've made a logical fallacy or something that would fit within the confines of one of those things. And I think you have to get to a point where philosophy is useful for asking very tough questions, or trying to get to the break down really tough issues. But in certain conversations, like with me and him, I think that there's a point where you stop paying attention to what I'm saying and the points that I'm trying to make.
You just start trying to figure out when he made a fallacy.
Right. You're looking for a way to throw up a that's begging the question, or that's even though that all that's doing is derailing the conversation and trying to get the focus away from what I brought up to try to steer.
What's funny about that is that when that happens, you can always just call fallacy and go, look, you can't dismiss what I'm saying based on the fact that it's fallacious, because that itself is fallacious.
Sure, yeah, but to me at that point, I just think that, like I said, some people.
I think Kyle sees that as just getting in the mud with the pigs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Some people use it like, I just want to have a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, right. I don't want to go in, like, you'll never see me call out somebody's, for doing a fallacy, because I will answer the question and I'll go based on where they go. Now, if you're in a formal debate where it's set up, you're going to have, everything's formalized, then yeah, there's a place for that. But I don't think that was the time for it. Well, what do you think about it, Ocean? You watched it, I assume.
I've watched most of it. But I liked like your demeanor and just like how you handled a lot of it. I thought it was interesting. I didn't expect to see you showing up on another channel solo and doing like kind of it seemed like almost a debate setting.
Yeah, it turned that way very quickly, which I knew it would.
Did you expect that? Like, was it billed as that to you, or did you feel like?
No, it's just a conversation. But I think that based on the things he was saying, it went there very quickly, because I called him out for the whole. The guy said that people in hell were still going to be punished for the sins they commit in hell. That was the thing that
I've heard that too, and that
I couldn't wrap my mind around, and I didn't understand that, because the whole point of hell is
that's their way. Yes. That's their way of getting around.
So that means I can have an orgy in hell.
Yes.
Right. Well, he's saying that God still continues to keep track of your sins in hell and will continue to punish you. Now, my question to him was, how does that make sense if hell is the ultimate punishment? Like that's the thing that you get for eternity. What's worse than that? Like, and he
two eternities.
He kept saying I was begging the question or poisoning the whale or I don't know.
The worst part about
I don't think that either one of those would apply to that.
It is neither one of those. You basically just pointed out where he made mistakes. Because anytime somebody brings that up to me, I'm like, well, hell is supposed to be, by definition, is the punishment for the things that you did on Earth, right? The one thing on Earth being, not believing that the Jew is your God. But
right.
when hell is the punishment for that thing, hell should not also be the punishment for the things you do in hell. Not to mention, if you're in hell, what sins are you actually committing in hell? Are you blaspheming?
Well, that's the question that I asked him.
God damn it, as you're getting burned.
That's the question that I asked him. Like, where are you getting this from? That was what I was trying to get at. Where are you getting that people are still punished in hell? Like, it continues to go on because
find the Bible verse where you extrapolated that from.
Never heard that, but that went to my ultimate point. Like where he got really pissed off was I tied it into this is exactly the problem with the Bible. Like, don't you think a God would create a book that is specific enough if your salvation is the most important thing on this planet? Don't you think he would specify everything in detail? What you should do and how you should do it to get to heaven? Why would he leave a verse open to interpretation that somebody would get out that you're able to sin in hell and continue to be punished for it while you're in the ultimate punishment, which is it's just bizarre. It makes no sense.
Well, that's why the
you
Christian
get more
faith,
of eternity.
Yeah, that's why the Christian faith and it down to its fundamentals has problems. This is where the problem of evil comes into play. This is where the idea of hell spits in the face of an all-loving God. There's actually a guy who's been commenting on my deconversion video, and me and him have been going back and forth for the past day. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm a masochist, I guess. But I asked them, whence cometh evil? And they said, well, God is all good. I'm like, well, that's a wonderful dodge of the question, but I asked you, whence cometh evil? He's like, well, It wasn't God. Okay. All right, Jordan Peterson. I didn't ask you what it wasn't. I asked you what it was.
It's the best way to put your point there on that, Kyle, by the way, is if there's a God that is omnipotent and all-knowing, wouldn't he know how to put together a Bible that would convince me and is specific enough for me to tell what to say?
Absolutely. And like where we got derailed was just that he was weaponizing the philosophy thing. I don't know if he thought that because sometimes it's talked about on the show or whatever, that would be something that I would, respond to or try to bicker with him about. But to me, it's just a conversation killer. Like, I don't do philosophy because it's not something that it interests people, and I understand that. Like, I get it. You're able to, follow that, and for some people, they want to know those different things. Me, I just like having conversations, and when you start doing that, I think that's just a tactic to get the attention off of the point that I'm trying to make, because you don't have any other way to go with it. Like, that's an easy out for him to just say, well, it's a fallacy. So, all of the Christians that are probably watching that are going, well, I can't pay attention to this point anymore because he called out a fallacy. It's obviously fallacious. So it's just a distraction thing. Unless you're talking with somebody who that's the point of the conversation, is to have something rooted deep in philosophy, and it's a formal thing, and you're both calling out each other for whatever fallacies they're using, then that's fine if you're both going into it knowing that. But
I try to steer clear of just like calling fallacies in the middle of conversations like that, unless it's like clear that the conversation is turning into a debate, and it's like, I can play that game if you want me to play that game,
right? And
then we'll get into it. But usually,
plus you just sound like a douche when you do that. Like, if somebody who sits there and goes, that's a fallacy. What is
especially when they use
argument ad populum? That's just, you sound like a douche. Don't stop.
That's like when somebody asked, when I was on the evolution conversation, it was like, well, how can we believe these scientists? And I'm like, well, if they're the ones that are doing it, was like, well, peer review is circular. Okay,
that's new.
That is a new one.
And I'm like, do you have a point? They're like, well, if you just agree with them, isn't that an argument from authority? And like,
Steve gets on that one a lot.
And argument ad baculum, which is a whale penis, by the way. A baculum is a
argument ad baculum.
Is a bone, is the penis bone. It is.
I fucking love that.
It's when the conversation gets muddied that way. And Kyle, you've seen my channel. You know I love philosophy. That's actually like 90% of my LHAC videos are philosophy or explanations of points in philosophy. And when people do that, I'm just like, okay, look, if this conversation can just change to me grabbing the back of your head and slamming it into the concrete, it would be more fucking productive.
Yeah, like I said, there's a place for it. I don't begrudge anybody for learning philosophy. I just think you have to be able to have a conversation outside of always running to that, because that's not how the world works in most cases.
At least be able to use it casually in a conversation to a point where it's understandable.
And use it with people who know, like who know it. Like
Right.
if you're having a general conversation, like don't assume everybody gives a shit when you say, argument ad populum. Like if you say that to me, I'm just gonna be like, okay, fine. Please answer my question. Like,
so you're saying that more scientists agree with evolution than the ones that don't? That's the nose counting fallacy.
It doesn't take away from the point you're trying to make. Just answer the question.
Nose
It's fine if you think it's fallacious. Just answer it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that's definitely a good place for us to end, with all of us lamenting how
Getting frustrated at the same thing.
all of us lamenting how interlocutors operate.
interlocutors. There's another one.
I mean, that's what you call the person on the other end of the conversation without calling them an opponent.
Argument ad Kyle. Yeah, that's right.
Argumentum ad gay.
That means that it's always correct.
With that said, guys, thank you all for coming out. Thank you guys for the super chats that you did show. Definitely don't go subscribe to Kyle on the Non Sequitur show, because he doesn't want you to do that.
Don't do it.
And definitely do not tune in to the next Hammered Out podcast, or we will have insert person here, because we haven't figured that out yet, because we am professional.
We'll figure it out.
Thank you guys very much for coming out.
Thank you for having me.